He, Severus Snape. Trapped in the darkness of the magical world, his youth's erroneous decisions destroyed his love and heart. She was born into a pure-blood family, Carlista Foley. Behind the noble bloodline, it cannot withstand the cruel disputes in the magical world. Fate constantly engulfed her in endless agony and struggle, just like when she was born or after reaching adulthood. How can we find ourselves and pursue that naive emotional palpitations? Love is hidden deep but difficult to speak out. She simply wants to have family, friendship, and love in the magical world, but she does everything for it. The choice between justice and evil is not only the dark prelude that Voldemort is about to begin, but also the conspiracy of Lucifer, the Lord of Hell. When she returned to Hogwarts again, the gears of fate engaged and rotated again. Undercurrents surging, mysteries of identity, conspiracies, and traps will be revealed one by one in front of her. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 2. Decision Making. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Darling, it's a girl. We need a boy. But what the Foley family needs is a boy. I can't see any visuals, and before me is endless darkness. A man and a woman were having a dispute over their voices, mixed with the cry of a baby. Who are they? Why do the Foley family need boys? Our Carlista is still too young, dear. This won't change anything. The Foley family needs boys to inherit. I can't. Don't worry, I have found a way. All we need is her blood. When we arrive in the country of Da. A sharp pain pierced through my arm, and blood flowed through it. Dad, Mom. Finally, there was a scene where I stumbled around my parents' feet as a young child. Neither of them glanced at me, both of them were silently reading. Suddenly, the domestic elf Clyde entered the field of vision. Dear Miss Carlista, are you looking for someone to play with you? Clyde can accompany you, and Clyde will always be with you. The remaining scenes are intermittent, almost all accompanied by Clyde. The screen jumps back to the scene when Principal Dumbledore and I first met. Hello, I am Albus Dumbledore, the principal of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. He stood at the entrance of Foley Manor, wearing a black travel cloak, a purple magic robe adorned with golden stars, and a top hat. As a young child, I hid behind Creed, stealing a glance at the white-bearded old man in front of me, holding onto a corner of Creed's tattered clothes. My parents, what's wrong? This is a memory from when I was just sent to an orphanage. They all left. Dumbledore's deep blue eyes were deep. The truth is a beautiful and terrifying thing. Sometimes we need to be extra cautious about it. He kindly touched my head, while I just looked back at him with a puzzled expression. When you grow up, you will understand. The scene twists and turns again, flowing to the third year of the orphanage. At a young age, I was squatting in a corner of the room, secretly crying, while Principal Dumbledore was sitting by the edge of the bed. If you sometimes have to endure pain, it's actually something worth celebrating. It proves that you are a living person, and this pain is a part of human nature. You need to learn to control your emotions, Carlista. When you are 11 years old, you will receive a letter from Hogwarts, where many professors will teach you knowledge. You will also have many wizard friends, I promise. Dumbledore's half-moon-shaped glasses shimmered with reflected light, his sharp and bright blue eyes blinked playfully at my young age. The screen once again jumps to Hogwarts. Hello, I am Lily Evans. He is Severus Snape. I heard from Principal Dumbledore that you are particularly outstanding in every subject. Can we come to you frequently in the future to discuss and learn together? This is the first time Lily, with a face full of embarrassment, Severus, has met me at Hogwarts. Callista, let's practice the guardian curse together. I really want to see what kind of animals our guardian gods are. This time, a scene emerged of Lily pulling me to practice the guardian curse. Must it be an animal? I can condense the silver mist sprayed out by the guardian curse. Look, it's like this. Does it look like a rectangular shield? In the picture, I cast a rectangular barrier. Hey, look at me, you can't solidify into a solid yet. You're really amazing. Lily was a bit frustrated, but soon she smiled brightly again. Such a long period of mind-taking has completely overwhelmed my body. The pain in my head was no longer the initial tingling sensation, but more like a sharp hammer strike, and the intense pain almost crushed me. Consciousness gradually blurred, and he knelt heavily on the ground as if losing support. Relying solely on the last will, I struggled to support myself with trembling arms and could not fall again. Just as he thought he could no longer hold on, Voldemort disdainfully clicked and withdrew from my memory. At this moment, the sky suddenly flashed with a bright lightning bolt. In just one breath, the thunderous sound began to make. It seems that this kind of weather is not suitable for us to continue our heart-to-heart talks, Voldemort said with a smile on his face as he glanced at the rolling dark clouds in the sky. I'm very interested in you, Carlista. I think you'll come find me. He crouched down and whispered in my ear in a hoarse voice. As a reward for seeing your memories, I can tell you that interesting thing. As for the inheritance of the Foley family, it really doesn't belong to you. Because you still have a younger brother. You are just a tool used by your parents, they abandoned you long ago. And the friends Dumbledore said were all arranged by him. Let those friends guide you towards the so-called justice. Who can say that Dumbledore is just in this world? I must be evil. Voldemort stood up with a sneer and raised his hand to shoot a green spell into the sky. It was a massive dark green skeleton. A large python emerged from the skull's mouth, like a tongue. It floats in the air and rises higher and higher, with a shimmering green smoke emitting a dazzling light. Against the backdrop of dark clouds, it appears particularly eerie and terrifying. You're a smart person, Carlista, you know where you can see me. He completely ignored me, who was struggling to support me on the side, and walked towards the distant alley on his own. So, don't make me wait too long, he said, turning into a black mist and disappearing in place. Voldemort's departure finally allowed the tense nerves to relax. At this moment, it seemed that there was no more strength to support it, and after struggling to shake his arms a few times, he finally collapsed to the ground. Struggling to roll over, lying on my back on the ground. The heavy breathing relieved some of the pain, and the air was still filled with unpleasant burnt odors. The black magic mark in the sky is like a talisman hanging above my head. The Aurors are coming soon and I must leave immediately. Intense pain attacks time and time again, and I am well aware of how urgent the current situation is, yet I am unable to concentrate my consciousness. In this situation, phantom shift is extremely dangerous, but I have no choice. Apparate. This is the most powerless illusion transformation for me. Everything around was plunged into darkness, and something was violently squeezed from all directions. I feel unable to breathe, and my chest seems to be tightly bound by iron straps, being thrown into one airtight rubber duct after another. Suddenly, something was tearing at my right leg, and the heart-wrenching pain almost made me faint. Never lose consciousness here. Depicting the familiar scene in my mind with all my might. The dim and dirty end of the alley, old windows nailed with wooden boards, the last building at the end of Spider Alley. I really don't have any strength to control my body anymore. At the moment of breaking away from the phantom's shape-shifting track, he let himself be thrown fiercely and then smashed into a wooden door. There seems to be some breaking sound, I hope it's not mine. My thoughts could no longer continue to run, and then sank into endless darkness. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 1. The Encounter of Muggle World. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Muggle World, this world that is both unfamiliar and familiar. Ironically, after leaving London for 7 years, I am now back. Standing in front of this orphanage that had lived for 7 years, there was a row of slightly outdated bungalows, and in the empty courtyard, there was only a large tree with a crooked neck. It's autumn in London in September, and the noon sun hasn't shown its face. The layers of dark clouds in the sky seem to indicate that a heavy rain is about to come. The howling wind kept hitting my eardrums, and the air around me was damp and oppressive. No child ran into the yard to play, and a faint cry could be heard in the bungalow. Looking quietly at the bungalow in front of me, for no reason, I feel my thoughts are very confused. Suddenly, the temperature around suddenly dropped, and the dim street lights on both sides of the path went out. An unusual chill gradually approached, which was enough to freeze the throat and tear apart the internal organs. A feeling of despair and helplessness swept through my body. A hand with scabs wrapped around my shoulder without warning, and I could smell the smell of decay spreading behind me. A stirring spirit quickly turned around and pulled out the wand. What's so close is a Dementor monster. It is draped in a cloak, hollow and intangible. My whole body seemed to be soaked in water, wrapped in tattered black cloth. It was permeated with a nauseating smell of decay, which unconsciously gave rise to a layer of goosebumps. Suppressing the unpleasant chill, the wand immediately spewed out a silver gas. It was rapidly forming a rectangular barrier, separating me from the Dementor. The Dementor once again attempted to approach, but drifted back and forth in fear of this barrier. Suddenly, an unprepared chill swept over from behind. I never expected to encounter 2 Dementors at the same time in the Muggle world. Aren't they guarding Azkaban? The sudden situation caught me off guard. Before I could turn back, the scabbed palm of another Dementor had already grabbed my neck. In the next moment, "Don't let that little monster come out. Lock her in the room. Run. She's a monster. Woo-woo. Don't leave me. Hello, I'm Lily Evans. He's Severus Snape. We aren't friends. Don't let me hate you, Carlista Foley. Lily. I love you, Severus." Memories flashed uncontrollably. As the Dementor approached, suffocation and feelings of pain and despair continued to intensify. Enough. I swung my wand fiercely and shot out a divine blade without a trace at the Dementor's arm. After hearing a sound similar to a bone fracture, it released me with some fear. I stabilized my body at the fastest speed and took a step back. As some air with a putrid odor surged into my mouth, the suffocating feeling of being choked on my neck gradually dissipated. For the first time in my life, I felt a raging anger filling my whole body. "How dare you!" Then he threw another silent spell, which hit the Dementor monster. Its right half was instantly blasted out, and its right elbow was also missing. Peeping into my memory. Immediately after, a black flame shot out from the wand like a shell. As soon as the black flame touched the Dementor, it immediately spread endlessly throughout the body. I heard a kind of howl. That unique sobbing sound. I looked at it and then turned my disdainful gaze to the other side. At this moment, the other Dementor had already escaped. The howling gradually weakened, and the Dementor monster in front of me was weakly twisting its body, slowly melting in the erosion of the black fire. "Don't blame me." There was a muffled rumbling sound in the distance, and the hand holding the wand couldn't help but tremble. The first time, what was killed? A strange emotion made me tremble, spreading from the hand holding the wand to my whole body. Pop, 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 pop. A rhythmic clapping sound echoed from behind. Perhaps as Lily mentioned in her letter, in this current situation, no one is safe no matter where they are. First is the Dementor that ran out of Azkaban, and then what will it be? I squeezed my wand tightly and kept it in a state where I could attack at any time, carefully turning around. Not far behind stood a tall man, dressed in a long black cloak, with eerie red eyes and a face as white as snowflakes. He clapped his hands and walked towards me, his seemingly young face seeming to show a smile. But to others, his smile was strange and twisted. "Ministry of Magic." I tentatively spoke, still tightly gripping my wand in my hand. He walked until there were still 2 meters left before stopping. This is a face in its 30s, possibly younger or older. For wizards, their lifespan usually exceeds 100 years, and appearance cannot accurately determine a person's age. I clearly saw that his white eyes were also filled with blood, with an unnatural face, twisted expression, and red eyes. He's not a normal person. This was the first feeling he brought to me. Pretty beautiful magic, beautiful lady. His eyes showed an undisguised fanaticism. It made me more certain that he definitely doesn't belong to the Ministry of Magic. In the current situation, people from the Ministry of Magic do not refer to black magic as beautiful magic. What criteria do you use to judge the beauty and ugliness of magic? Slightly relax yourself and feel that the man in front of you may be a dangerous person. I was mentally calculating how to fully recover if I really started, but at least for now. I need to create a false sense of relaxation and numb the other person in order to have a better chance of getting out. He laughed out loud as if hearing some interesting topic, with an indescribable evil spirit in his laughter. But coupled with his twisted expression, it makes people feel creepy. I always feel that there are still some traces of dark magic on his face. Like the aftermath of using certain black magic, or some failed magical transformation. I have something that no wizard has ever possessed, and I will go further on the path of magic than anyone else. I am the standard by which all magic is judged. His voice was not loud, but every word was infused with a strong and powerful magical impact. The unexpected impact caught me off guard and I only had time to cast a silent iron armor curse to resist. What evil thing have you done to yourself? I tried to distract his magical impact with this uncertain guess. Obviously, it is very effective. The positive impact immediately dissipated. He glanced at me, appearing indifferent. You're both smart and foolish, he twisted his expression and smiled. What is justice? What is evil? What you see in front of you may not be true. He twitched his lips and began to approach me again. Don't you think it strange, Miss Foley? He called out my name without warning, leaving me shocked beyond words. He saw my shocked expression on his face, as if he had received an excellent reward, and his mouth widened even wider. Oh, I think. Maybe you don't find it strange. Indeed, it is. Dumbledore began to influence your worldview when you were very young. He finally walked up to me, his face pale as if he were a living person. He seemed to be performing a monologue, speaking on his own. It took me some time to recover from the shock, from his appearance to these strange words and actions. I should have guessed it long ago. Mr. You-know-who. When I read out his name, his face twitched and suddenly became terrifying and ferocious. I am Lord Voldemort, he said ferociously, reciting each syllable exceptionally heavy. At this moment, I met his gaze in the air, and his eyes immediately turned crimson, with a red light piercing into my brain-sealing technique. A magical art that resists external spiritual infiltration. It can block the brain to resist the invasion and influence of magic, and also help you clear all emotions in the brain. Don't you think this is a very charming magic? Suddenly, a scene came to mind. It was a conversation between Principal Dumbledore and me when I was 14 years old. Then, the dense grey mist covered up the entire image in my mind, and a pair of crimson eyes repeatedly penetrated into the mist, trying to pass through it. Peeping into other people's memories is not the behavior that a gentleman should have. Mr. Mysterious Man. Striving to push back an invisible constraint, he quickly built a barrier to his brain and finally struggled to break free from the mysterious man's mesmerizing thoughts. Resisting me is not a wise choice, Miss Foley. He squeezed out a strange expression and made a clicking sound with his mouth. Perhaps he is using this strange expression to express his surprise. He paused for a moment, hesitating to speak, his red eyes constantly scrutinizing me up and down. Memory and knowledge are the only things I have left. Apart from that, I have nothing. I don't like anyone peeking at them. The piercing sensation that had previously invaded my mind still lingers, and I strive to maintain a closed mind state. Clearing the brain and abandoning all emotions. I once encountered an interesting thing in DA country. About the inheritance of the ancient pure-blood family. The Foley family. He deliberately lengthened the syllable of Foley, and I could see his expression, revealing an indescribable excitement. It's none of my business. My tone was devoid of emotion and I couldn't let myself be affected in any way. We must prevent all emotional fluctuations to ensure the firmness of the barriers. Only in this way can brain closure surgery continue. You will be interested, Miss Foley. The truth exists in your memory. His pale and slender hand reached out from his black cloak, and I took a half-step back alertly. His fingertips curved and brushed against the temple on my right face. The feeling of fingertips is cold, without any trace of human warmth. I also spent my childhood here. How long has it been? He showed a look of extreme disgust. Here, with a group of dirty muggles, there really isn't much valuable memory. His jumping thinking made me a bit unable to keep up with his rhythm. Suddenly, he waved his hand towards the row of bungalows around him, vaguely seeing a piece of wand hidden under his right cloak. Before his waving arms could hang down, the row of bungalows was already blazing with flames. In an instant, screams and cries echoed one after another. Muggle's life is like an ant, it will be destroyed with a wave of its hand. The man in front of me is simply a madman. I kept squeezing the knuckles of my wand, which had gradually turned from pale white to pale blue. I couldn't move my hands, it was too late. If you want to know about our family, I'm really sorry, sir. I have no impression at all, I can't help it. On one side is a hell on earth, while on the other side stands a demon. Watching a group of muggles struggling for help in the sea of fire. I don't know how long I can hold on in this kind of purgatory, and my emotions are swaying fragile like candlelight, but eventually they still waver. The mysterious person's eyes were filled with reflections of the burning flames in the bungalow, and the constant screams greatly pleased him. He went from a ferocious chuckle to a wild laugh. Every laughter is stimulating my eardrums, like sharp blades piercing through my heart. His laughter didn't last long, but the pain in my eardrums and the stabbing pain in my heart persisted for a long time. I can dig out your deepest memories, what you think you have forgotten, but they do exist. Don't escape, we are actually the same kind of people. He frivolously picked up my chin with his finger, making me look at him unavoidably. Just a simple gaze, layers of pressure invade one after another. Although I know I can barely hold on for a while, in the end. There will always be times when I can't hold on unless someone can come and rescue me. But who will come again? I have sealed myself off, and now I have ridiculous hopes that someone will come and save me. If you want to see, just watch. I obediently closed my eyes. There are many helplessness in life, so I compromise time and time again, just hoping for a result that belongs to me. Grasping the mind. Without any surprise, the piercing sensation immediately invaded the brain. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 4. Unforgettable Memories and Reality. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I walked in the darkness, feeling very tired and exhausted, but I couldn't stop walking. It seems like something is calling me at the end of the darkness. The last memory still lingers at the end of Spider Alley, being thrown onto a door, and then am I dead? Is the end of this darkness hell? Is it like this when life comes to its end? I can't feel sadness. Suddenly, the black in front of me twisted in an instant, and I stepped into the air. I fell and spun along with this darkness. As it kept spinning, it was surrounded by a silver-white color. Letting go with the flow and then diving deeper into it. Unexpectedly, I fell head forward into a patch of sunshine. When my feet were on the smooth ground and I straightened up, I realized that I was standing by a window, with a ray of scorching sunlight shining on me. This is the library of Hogwarts. As she was wondering why she had come here, a student with dark red long hair immediately caught her eye. She was sitting at a long table in the library, reading the book in her hand seriously with her head down, and her slender and fair fingers were caressing a corner of the page. She seems to be myself. Is this, falling into one's own memories? I stood in place at a loss, looking at myself in front of me, hesitating whether to walk over. Just as I was pondering, the sound of footsteps slowly approached. Looking for a voice, Severus is walking towards me. He was wearing a slightly faded second-hand school robe, with an unhealthy pallor on his face, faint black circles under his eyes, and a book in his hand. He walked up to me and sat down quietly. Seeing myself smiling lightly at that moment, I felt happy because of Severus's arrival. Lily caught a cold and is resting in her dormitory. She can't come, she asked me to tell you. Severus spoke softly and casually opened the book in his hand. The Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. Are you coming to accompany me in reading? Severus started reading beside me. He didn't look up at me, but I still heard him softly, I saw a subtle blush on my face. This is my memory. When we were in 4th grade. As I approached Severus step by step, I sat across from him at the long table. Unconsciously, he leaned down on the table and rested his arm on the head he was leaning against. This posture allows for a clearer view of Severus's face as he lowers his head to read. His slightly green face at that time, his eyebrows, his eyes, and his lips. Am I a fool? Why? I knew it was just a memory, and I just looked at Severus's face through the memories. Even though my heart is filled with sourness now, why do I still feel happy? On this quiet afternoon, Severus and I were both quietly reading different books. And I, foolishly looking at Severus. Over and over again there is no sense of discord in such a scene, we are just together, accompanying each other. I started falling in love so long ago. His companionship with me suddenly, this scene disappeared, and before I realized it, I reorganized into another scene. I am standing in a small grove. By the black lake next to the forbidden forest, with two familiar figures standing a few steps away. Miss Foley, wandering by the forbidden forest, ready to violate school rules. Aren't you here too? Severus, do you think I'm a weirdo? You're not. Is it strange that all subjects are, outstanding, in 4 years? It's not strange. Why do they always compliment me in front of me, but then slander me behind my back? They don't understand you. So, do you understand me? Severus. Ache. Miss Quan-O, can you hold your precious hand high and cast a warmth spell on yourself? Hug. Azu. Apologies. Go back to the castle. I still have many potions that need to be brewed. The scene has been reorganized again. Looking around, a prominent one-eyed witch statue caught the eye. This is near the 4th floor of the Hogwarts spell school classroom. Quickly, I found myself and Severus among a group of students who had finished class. This is the refreshing potion we studied and improved together before, here you are. Severus handed me the 2 bottles of potion in his hand. Did you always carry this with you? No, Lily has caught a cold recently. I just brought it to her and she said she doesn't need so many. So I still have a few bottles on me, Severus said calmly, but when he mentioned Lily, his mouth involuntarily curved slightly. Severus is actually a delicate and soft-hearted person. Although he is always cold on the surface and not easy to get close to, he is just not good at expressing himself, just like me. Lily's cold has almost healed, so she doesn't need so much refreshing medication. The potions he deliberately took were probably for me. Thank you, Severus. I smiled happily. Then, he nodded at me and quickly turned around to leave. Standing in the same place, watching his immature self and watching Severus's back. He stood there foolishly smiling until his back completely disappeared. What is love has always been confusing to me. I just confirmed that the first person who treated me well, then the scene changed. Lily and Severus are arguing in the castle courtyard. I stood silently beside them, feeling a bit embarrassed. Due to being some distance away from them, I couldn't hear exactly what was arguing about, so I walked over quickly. It wasn't until I walked up to them that I realized Severus seemed to be much taller than when he was in 4th grade. This is us in 5th grade, we were supposed to be friends. Best friends, was Severus speaking. Of course we are good friends, Sever, but I don't like the group of people you hang out with all day long. I'm sorry, but I really hate Mulsaber and Avery. What kind of people are they, Sever? Do you know what they're going to do to Mary MacDonald one day? Lily leaned against a pillar and looked at Severus's thin, pale face. But in the end, there were no serious consequences. Severus said, "It was just a joke, that's all." That's black magic, if you find it so fun. What's the matter with Potter, Lupin, and the others? Severus asked, his face turning red as he spoke, seeming uncontrollable in his hatred. What did Potter and the others do? At least they didn't use black magic. Lily said excitedly. You all calm down, don't get excited. I finally spoke up and inserted into the conversation between the two of them. They both turned their heads to look at me at the same time and said, it's inevitable to make friends in our respective colleges. We shouldn't take responsibility for what our friends did wrong, should we? Stop blaming each other, okay? I know James Potter is a big shot. Lily looked at me and then at Severus, lowering her voice. But the joke between Mulsaber and Avery is simply evil. Severus, try not to be with them as they are both dangerous. Obviously, my mediation has had a certain effect, and the arrogant atmosphere just now has disappeared. When Severus heard Lily say that Potter was arrogant, his whole body noticeably relaxed, and a slight smile curved around his mouth. Then, the scene disappeared. My feet once again stepped on the grass outside the castle, and from a distance, I saw Severus walking out of the castle and sitting under a tree. He didn't notice that James, Cyrus, Lupin, and Peter happened to be nearby not far away. This is OW. The scene after the defense against the dark arts exam. But this time, I'm just watching from a distance. Because I knew what James would do when he hung Severus upside down, and what would happen afterwards. What they had said before, I couldn't bear to listen to it again. Not long after, I saw Lily and me walking to the group of 4, and then speaking for Severus. From afar, I heard Severus shouting the unforgivable word, mud seed, at Lily in embarrassment and anger. Soon, the scene became blurry again. I'm sorry. I don't want to listen. Sorry. I said, I don't want to hear it. The picture forms a night that I cannot forget in my memory. Lily stood in front of the chubby lady portrait at the entrance of Gryffindor Tower, wearing a nightgown and holding her arms, while Severus lowered her head like a child who had made a mistake. I hid at the corner of the stairs, and no one saw me. Because at that time, a phantom curse was enough to cover my entire body. Mary said you threatened to sleep here, that's why I came out. Yes, I'm really prepared to do this. If you don't want to come out and see me. I didn't mean to call you mud seed on purpose, I just. Did you slip your tongue? Lily's voice didn't show any sympathy. It's too late. I've been making excuses for you for several years. Gryffindor's classmates don't understand how I spoke to you. What did you and your group of snack-dead friends do? You're just so eager to follow the mysterious person, right? Severus opened his mouth, but couldn't say anything. He struggled weakly a few times and then closed his mouth tightly. Look. You don't even explain. You don't even explain what happened to those snack-dead guys. I don't want to make excuses for you anymore. You chose your path, and I also chose mine. No. Lily, I didn't mean to. Don't call me by my name again. This makes me feel nauseous. If you call people who were born the same as me mud seed, what's the difference between calling me mud seed? Severus was still desperately trying to find an excuse, but Lily gave him a contemptuous glance and mercilessly turned her head to crawl into the portrait hole. Severus stood motionless like a stone sculpture, hoping that Lily would change her mind and forgive him as long as he didn't leave. This night was very long. I, who had cast a phantom spell, stood at the corner of the stairs and kept looking at him. We are both static people, only our hearts are not calm. I walked up to Severus, his black eyes so hollow, and his eyebrows tightly intertwined. My heart is sour, and my mouth is full of bitterness. This is the person I miss in my heart, but it's not me that he misses in his heart. Give up. Don't wait. She's determined. I know he can't hear me and won't respond. But at this moment, I can't control my own people, nor can I control my own heart. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 3 Nightmares to Avoid Each Other. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Severus, as usual, was sitting on the sofa in the living room studying potion books. This is a severely worn cover of the Compendium of Powerful Potions. Obviously it has been flipped through for some years. Suddenly, a fierce knocking sound interrupted his train of thought, followed by a muffled sound of a heavy object landing. Damn Bellatrix. Don't always send some foolish people to fetch potions. Severus slammed the potion book shut and casually placed it on a small wooden table beside him, frowning displeasedly as he walked towards the door. He habitually drew out his wand with his right hand, tilted his body slightly, and opened the door with his left hand. There was no unexpected member of the Death Eaters outside the door, while a woman lay on the ground nearby, her figure somewhat familiar. A head of long dark red hair was disheveled, almost covering the entire face. Under the scattered candlelight emanating from the room, a faint outline of facial features can be seen. She was wearing Muggle clothes, a light blue long-sleeved shirt with a lot of stains, and a pair of jeans with the same stains. The woman lay motionless on the ground, emitting a faint smell of blood. Severus looked around alertly, and the spider alley in the evening was empty. The street lights in the alley have not been lit yet, and everything around is surrounded by darkness. At this moment, an injured Muggle woman appeared at the end of Spider Alley. He was pondering what he had stepped on as soon as he took a step. Looking down, an extremely familiar wand lay quietly at his feet. The wand is flying. Severus said as soon as he finished speaking. The wand under his feet flew into his hand. This is a birch wand, about 10¼ inches long, with antique magical sand patterns carved on the handle. What a trouble. He pursed his lips and looked at the wand thoughtfully. But soon, as if he had made up his mind, he cast a floating spell on the unconscious woman in front of him, guiding him towards his room. Severus placed her on his bed and gently stroked away the long hair that covered her cheeks, revealing a pale yet familiar face. Carlista. It's best for you to give me a reasonable explanation when you wake up, he said, still furrowing his brow as he placed her wand on the bedside table to the side. Watching her pale face devoid of blood, it seemed as if the last trace of anger on her face was about to disappear. Severus's heart wriggled uncomfortable as he closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and then opened it again. It has to be said that such a slight adjustment has successfully driven away the uncomfortable feeling in my heart. This situation seems to be a symptom of excessive blood loss, and it is necessary to immediately find out where the wound is, Severus thought silently in his heart. The gaze first fell on Callista's upper body, then slowly scanned downwards. Quickly, Severus' gaze fell on her right leg, and his pupils contracted unnaturally. It's blood. The right leg of the jeans has been soaked in a large area of blood, split in half. Severus waved his wand without hesitation, and the wet and darkest colored denim on his right leg shattered in response. On his pale thighs, thick dark red blood kept flowing out, appearing particularly glaring. A large piece of meat over there is missing. It's like being dug up with a sharp knife. Damn it. How foolish of you to score points. Severus couldn't help but curse softly, quickly turning around and walking towards the cellar with an expression of indescribable nervousness. He came back soon, holding wound cleanser, fresh blood, and blood tonic in his hand. Wound cleaning agent. A medical preparation used for wounds and other open wounds, usually reserved at the San Mango Magical and Illness Hospital. Coincidentally, a batch of magic potions requested by the Black Demon King recently included wound cleaning agents. Bellatrix, who is responsible for regular medication collection, has not yet taken them away. Severus knelt and leaned against the edge of the bed, leaning forward slightly to make his position more convenient for handling the wound. Remove the cork of the wound cleaning agent and slowly pour the purple medicine onto the wound. Each pour emits a pale purple smoke, and the bloody smell intensifies in the air. After cleaning the wound, the color of the blood flowing out changed from dark red to a brighter red. Obviously, the impurities in the wound have been cleaned thoroughly. He quickly glanced at Carlista, who was still lying silently, with no expression on her face. Wound cleaning agents are highly irritating and have significant effects, but the process is also extremely painful. Almost no one can tolerate the intense pain caused by cleaning wounds with medication. What have you done to yourself? Carlista. Severus showed a surprised and puzzled expression, and Carlista still lay quietly in front of him, without any reaction. Severus closed his eyes and stroked his forehead, adjusted his emotions, and then continued to focus his thoughts on the wound. Pull out a small bottle of fresh white wine and evenly drop the medicine onto Callista's bloody wound. The green smoke immediately rose up, and after the smoke dissipated, the blood slowly stopped. In no time, the wound appeared to have healed for several days, with new skin covering the tender flesh that had grown. After the wound was completely healed, he took a deep breath and turned over to lean against the edge of the bed. He slowly looked up, his eyes empty as he looked at the cracked wall paint on the ceiling, unsure of what to think at this moment. Suddenly, he remembered that he was still holding a blood tonic in his hand. He stood up with one hand on the edge of the bed and came to Callista. Extend your left hand to pinch between Callista's upper and lower jaws, revealing a slight gap between her lips. Using the index finger and thumb of the right hand, pry open the cap of the medicine bottle, and the cork immediately fell onto the bed. He sat on the edge of the bed and slowly dripped the blood tonic along the gap between her lips into her mouth. Every time a small part is poured in, it will carefully stop. Wait quietly for a while, then slowly drip in. He appeared very patient, with gentle and slow movements, as if they were still. It seemed like a century had passed, and when the last drop of blood tonic flowed into Callista's mouth, Severus released his hand and placed the empty bottle of the medicine on the bedside table. Her cheeks between her upper and lower jaws were pinched and turned slightly red. Her face was no longer as pale as before, and slowly a hint of blood spread over her face. There are still some spilled blood tonics left at the corner of her mouth. Severus unconsciously stroked the corner of her mouth with his hand, gently wiping away the wet liquid with his fingers. Slowly stroke her cheeks along the corner of her mouth until it falls onto the dark red hair on the side. The entire movement appeared both gentle and cautious, as if afraid of waking her up. His slightly dazed eyes looked at the lightly twisted dark red hair in his hand, as if recalling some beautiful things through it. "Lily, are you doing well now?" he murmured, his voice soft and deep like a cello, but also revealing a sour sadness. But in the next moment, he shook all over as if waking up from a dream, and his dark red hair slid down through the gaps in his fingertips. He lowered his head, burying his expression deep in the shadow, and pursed his lips with extreme suppression, tightly pursing until it revealed an unhealthy cyan-purple hue. He quickly got up and fled from this bedroom, with an emotion spreading in his heart that he shouldn't have. Severus vented his anger and buried himself in the sofa in the living room. He rested one hand on the armrest of the sofa, half covering his face, while the other hand silently took out a bottle of life and death water from his arms. Every night, there are always those despicable faces surrounding his dreams, entangled with him for a long time. This dark emotion, accompanied by the passage of time, grows day and night in dreams. There is also the person in my heart. Red hair, blue eyes. Getting further and further away from oneself. That is an unavoidable nightmare, if I am unable to resist it at this moment. So let's temporarily choose to escape. He unscrewed the cork of the life and death water bottle and drank it without hesitation. He casually threw the empty container onto the sofa and slowly closed his eyes. Tonight has been exceptionally tiring and long. May there be no more nightmares in this world. Chiming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 5. The Unclear Gap. You are listening at novelfull.audio. That night, I said countless words to Severus. Every sentence is something I have wanted to say over the years, but I dare not say it. I am afraid in my heart. Yes, I'm afraid I'm already dead. I'm afraid this is a replay of memories after death. I'm afraid I won't even let Severus know in the end. I love him. Suddenly, the familiar fatigue swept through my body, and an unknown suction was trying to pull me away. Helplessly lifting his hand, wanting to touch Severus' face for the last time. But the next moment, the entire scene shattered. A black vortex appeared behind me, and as if suddenly caught by an invisible hand, I was dragged into the vortex. If you dare to die here. A voice burst in, as if coming from far away. Who is it? I tried hard to open my eyes, but I couldn't do it. My eyelids were heavy like being filled with lead. You owe me an explanation. The voice remained hazy. Immediately afterwards, a wave of fatigue swept over. Unable to resist, my head was groggy. Carlista. Severus. Is it an illusion? Or another voice from memories? The pounding of the heart began to echo in my mind, from light to loud. In the end, every beat sounded like a big drum. Wake up. Pain. This is the first sentence before my eyes, my voice much hoarse than usual. I frowned and my head was swollen and uncomfortable. Opening my eyes with difficulty, the scenery in front of me was blurry. It was a room with another person. Slowly blinking a few times, my vision finally became clear. Sever. Less. I felt my heart pounding strongly against my chest. This is reality, I'm still alive. This is not a memory, nor a dream. There was a flicker of emotion in his eyes, and then he quickly regained his composure, responding dryly. He just looked at me calmly, without any sadness or joy. The fundus of the eye is a deep and bottomless black, without any emotions. A faint mist-like smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he slowly looked around, avoiding his gaze. What should I say? In my memories, I once said 1,000 words, but now it's like a meme in my throat. This room is obviously Severus's bedroom, with his unique style. Just like himself, it is difficult to get close to people who refuse to travel thousands of miles. The bedroom is cold and damp, with only a few candles illuminating some corners, providing no warmth. The wall is a deep dark green with a very small window. Through that window, it seemed impossible to see anything clearly, only the murky darkness. The room was very small, with hardly any decent furniture except for the bed I was lying on. A mottled dark wardrobe with peeling paint, and a tattered dark brown bedside table with a wand and a book. Common magic panes. Sorry, I said softly in my breath, my eyes fixed on the book. Common magic panes. A short silence. He didn't say anything, and I just turned my head and didn't look at him. What broke the silence between us was the creaking sound of leather shoes stepping on the old wooden floor, and he left. Severus, have I annoyed you? A sense of disappointment spread in my heart. I tried to move and sat up. Perhaps due to lying down for too long, accompanied by a slight dizziness, my eyes suddenly turned black, and the clothes covering my body also slipped to one side. When the dizziness gradually dissipated, I realized that my right leg was exposed and the denim fabric on it had disappeared. A black men's robe was draped around his legs. When I woke up earlier, I didn't notice it. Reaching out his hand and pulling his robe close to him, he stared at it in amazement as thoughts danced wildly in his mind. The remaining warmth on the robe is also gradually dissipating. I think Miss Foley may have forgotten. Sometime, Severus returned. His long-pitched voice pulled me back from my chaotic thoughts. Your clumsy phantom shape-shifted and dismembered yourself. And also broke a rib. He walked towards me calmly, holding a bottle of ginger medicine in his hand. Perhaps you should give me an explanation. He raised his left eyebrow and looked at me with a hint of mockery. He shrugged pointlessly and shook the potion in his hand a few times. What is this? I hoarsely spoke, pointing to the potion in Severus' hand, without answering his question. Poison, medicine. He frowned and emphasized the pronunciation of each word by word. Obviously, not getting an answer made him very unhappy. For me. If you want it, he said noncommittally, pulling up the corner of his mouth and showing a mocking smile. Poison. If he personally gave it, even if it was poison, I think I would drink it without hesitation. Without a moment of hesitation, he reached out and snatched the potion from Severus's hand. To the last second of life, cheers. Still in a hoarse voice, I gave him a shallow smile and drank the poison, in one breath. There was no taste that was hard to swallow as imagined. Pouring the ginger yellow potion into my mouth gave me a sweet and refreshing scent like spring water, with a faint hint of mint fragrance. Another drink. My voice was no longer hoarse, and I regained my original tone. I roughly guessed what kind of potion it was. Unfortunately, there's none left. Severus pursed his lips and snatched the empty potion bottle back from my hand. So. Now. What do you want to say? His obsidian-like eyes looked straight into mine, as if he wanted to see something from my eyes. No. I tried to maintain a pure gaze and looked back at Severus. We are both excellent brain closure surgeons, and it is almost impossible for us to see something from each other's eyes. Severus didn't move, raised an eyebrow and looked at me quietly. So, you can go now. He didn't wait for my answer anymore and turned around without looking back. Accompanied by the creaking sound of the wooden floor, in no time, a fierce knocking sound was heard. With a bewildered expression, watching Severus leave, I felt my entire stomach contracting in discomfort. Actually, I really want to say to him, it's great to see you again. I got up from the bed and stood on the creaking old wooden floor, holding onto the black robe tightly. The wand is flying. He opened his right hand and firmly caught the wand flying towards me. I lightly tapped the torn denim pants on my body with a wand, and it suddenly turned into a short, cropped pair of jeans. Although it looks a bit comical, at least it won't be like before, where one leg has fabric and the other leg doesn't. Holding Severus in his black robe, he slowly walked downstairs. The old wooden stairs made a creaking sound, and each sound was particularly harsh. It seems to be constantly shouting, so that I, the troublemaker, can leave quickly. What should I do? Do I want to leave? My thoughts kept asking me, but I couldn't make a decision. Hesitating step by step, I walked forward and unknowingly arrived at the entrance to the cellar on the first floor. The wooden door in front of me was tightly closed. I know I feel conflicted and confused inside, but I can't help but knock on the door. Quickly, Severus opened the door of the cellar, and the cold smell of the cellar and the smell of a potion came rushing towards him. When I was still hesitating, his gaze met mine. He squinted his eyes slightly and looked at me with a scrutinizing expression. Be careful. I couldn't help but speak. What? Severus looked at me with a cold light in his eyes. Mysterious person. Upon hearing this name, Severus's expression suddenly seemed unnatural, but soon returned to its usual state. He frowned and slowly spoke, as if weighing every word. "I don't want to guess riddles with you, Miss Foley. If you find it interesting to fool me." "No, I don't." "So, tell me. What exactly are you trying to say?" "Sorry, Severus." I put the black robe that belonged to him in my arms into his hand, lowered my head, and dared not look into his eyes again. Severus clenched his robe in his hand, threw it angrily, and turned to walk into the cellar. I didn't know where the courage came from, but suddenly I ran towards his back and hugged him. "Let's escape together. Let's escape together with me. Don't push yourself into the abyss of opposition, there's still time for everything." His body was shaking a bit, and I knew he was about to break free. "You don't care, but I do. I have always cared about you." I tried my last struggle, but his body visibly froze. Waiting is a long and torturous thing. I am waiting for his answer. As if for a century, he finally spoke up. "If you're afraid, just run away alone. I want to stay." The heart seemed to skip a beat, and in just one breath, the feeling of heartache spread from the bottom of the heart. Mustering up the courage to wrap his hands around him, it seemed like he could no longer find a reason to continue supporting them, and they eventually shook and fell. He refused me, as should have been expected. This love always makes me hurt again and again. How to say goodbye to someone you don't want to lose. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 6. Leaving, in a country without you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I ultimately chose to leave Ingwa as a Muggle. Leave Severus, leave this country that I cannot bear. Emotional matters are something that no one can force to handle. I love you, you love her, she loves him. Love, spinning around. But it never turns on us. Lost in thought in the waiting hall of Heathrow Airport in London. Leaving here in this way without any magical traces, no one will know where I have gone. Almost half of the assets of the Foley family in the Gringotts vault were taken away and exchanged for US dollars. Perhaps the only thing I can feel fortunate about. The wealth left by my parents can no longer be described as wealth. I still remember the scene when I first entered the Gringotts vault of the Foley family when I was a child. The mountains of gold gerons and jewelry almost filled the entire vault. Even though I was young and thin back then, I couldn't find a place to settle down. I didn't plan to take away anything more, let some things stay here with past memories. The luggage I took with me ended up with only a small handbag with a traceless stretching spell, filled with money taken from the Guling Pavilion. I couldn't help but laugh at myself and think. I am very rich, and what is rich is only money left standing on this land. There is always a feeling that makes it difficult to breathe. It seems that every hard breath can cause abnormal pain. I can't calm down or think. Perhaps I will be away for a long time, maybe I will come back, maybe not. When the plane took off, it was drizzling lightly in the sky, and the clouds and mist in the air converged into a gray and hazy area. Am I still hoping for something? Some people, some things, or some thoughts through the clouds and mist. I wanted to see further places, but the distant scenery was only vaguely visible. Let go of those unrealistic delusions. Once upon a time, no one welcomed my arrival. At this moment, no one will bid me farewell. I have arrived in a brand new country. The United States. Try to persuade yourself to come here and spend a brand new life. Let time erase the pain in your heart and hide the memories of the past. I stayed in New York, USA for 2 years, and then traveled to New Orleans. There are too many differences in the environment here compared to in country. In the magical world of the United States, there is their unique parliament, similar to the Ministry of Magic in Ing, abbreviated as Makusa, pronounced Makuza. Each country has a different term for Muggle, and in the United States, Muggle is called no mage, which stands for no magic. There is always a certain degree of secret cooperation and communication between the Muggle government and the Ministry of Magic in Ing country. And in the United States, unlike the Ministry of Magic in Ing, MACUSA operates completely independently and has no connection to the No-Maj government. During my 2 years in New York, I became much more outgoing and made some friends. Sometimes I don't even believe that I can make friends. Perhaps this stems from the enthusiasm of the American people, who have an unimaginable passion for dealing with people and things. In Ing country, people tend to be reserved and restrained. Although friendly to others, one will eventually maintain a polite restraint and moderation, making it difficult to quickly integrate with strangers. And American people are witty and outgoing, very easy to get along with, they will almost make all kinds of jokes with you. At first, these jokes really made it difficult for me to digest, and I didn't even understand where their laughter was. After getting along for a long time, I gradually understood. They are proactive and not easily give up, and this kind of progress is very infectious. At the end of the 19th century, MACUSA legislated that every member of the magical world in the United States must have a wand license, and all wizards must register their wands at MACUSA. Through this, MACUSA can track the magical actions of all wizards and identify the perpetrators through their wands. I am in the United States and also hold a wand license. However, the registered wand is not the original one, but was purchased from wand maker Viola Tabovina. Ollivander is a unique wand maker in the country of Ing. But in the United States, there are 4 famous wand makers: Hicobawolf, Johannes Junger, Tiago Quintana, and Violetta Above. The wands they make all have their own characteristics, some are good at transformation magic, some are good at defense magic, and the wands made by Violetta Beauvais are very fond of black magic. At first, I was not sure about the unique features of their respective wands, so I randomly chose one to cope with MACUSA's wand registration. Hawthorn wood, 11 inches long, with a stem made of wetland werewolf hair. Viola Tabove said it suits me very well, and the wand fits me very well. However, I can sense the dark aura of this wand, which feels very dangerous, and I am not sure if I have mastered it. By a stroke of fate, I ultimately bought it. After registering with MACUSA, I threw it into the space of the traceless stretching curse. During my 2 years in New York, what allowed me to calm down and study was the ancient wandless magic. This is because after abandoning the Hawthorn wand, I am unable to cast spells with my original wand and do not want to use that Hawthorn wand again. The library in MACUSA, New York is a place I often visit. The collection there is astonishingly large, even several times larger than the library at Hogwarts. As long as you hold a wand license, you can borrow various books at will. There, you can devote yourself to the study of wandless magic day and night without being disturbed by anyone. I want to keep myself busy. Busy to the point of exhaustion, busy to the point where there is no time or energy to reminisce about the past, or miss someone. The ancient wandless magic originated in Europe. The wand guides magic to make its effects more precise and powerful. Many ancient magic books have recorded that very powerful wizards can cast high-quality magic without using a wand. The presence or absence of a wand can serve as a sign of a wizard's strength, and wand-free magic can also reach very complex levels. However, in modern times, wizards rely more on wands and tend to cast spells more easily. Few people are willing to delve into the complex mysteries of wandless magic. I spent 2 years reading all the books about wandless magic in the MACUSA library. I have become increasingly adept at using wandless magic, and practical magic in daily life is my forte. As for other types of magic, they are almost useless here. With the constraints of a strong MACUSA and wand monitoring system, the public order of the entire magical society is well organized, and there are rarely violent incidents. Of course, research on wandless magic is still ongoing. Occasionally, I also study books on black magic. A large part of the Foley family's collection of books is about black magic. Since childhood, books on black magic have accompanied me as I grew up, and it's hard to resist the attraction of black magic to me from the bottom of my bones. Perhaps they are dangerous, evil, or despised by others, but for me, they are also my friends. Whenever I stop researching, memories of the past always come back from time to time. It's like a terrifying giant wave, rushing wildly towards me and mercilessly smashing it down, flooding my entire body. Some things and some people are the deepest nightmares in my heart. No matter where I escape, they always linger. I have some New York friends who often invite me to places that are called decadent, such as bars. I am not averse to places like bars. Everyone needs a place and a way to vent, even wizards are no exception. The life of a wizard is actually very monotonous, and we cannot expose magic to no mage, making our circle of life appear very limited. Wandering in bars at night has become one of the few forms of entertainment among wizards. You can use alcohol to be elegant and talk freely, or indulge in alcohol and revelry. You can be warm and romantic, emotional and melodious, or vulgar and tasteless. Anyway, life is so boring, it's better to let it rot in alcohol. Who would care? I have done many crazy things with my friends. The craziest thing is driving the newly purchased red Mercedes-Benz 450 SL convertible with Camille for 20 hours without sleep, from New York to New Orleans. Drive south along Bray Avenue, from New Jersey to Alabama, and then to Louisiana. We howl loudly, calling out for reckless youth. The wind along the way has blown tears down my face, making it difficult to distinguish whether it hurts my eyes or my heart. New Orleans is a seaport city in the southern part of Louisiana, United States, also known as the City of Water. The entire city is located about 10 feet below sea level, with Lake Pontchartrain to the north and the Mississippi River crossing the city to the south. The unique cultural atmosphere of this city is very charming. Even local American people like Camille come to New Orleans and feel like they have traveled to a foreign land. There are many descendants of French, Spanish, Italian, and Greek people living here, and their ancestors have also integrated their local culture with this city. Driving slowly along St. Charles Street from the French district towards the upper city, from the European-style French district to the typical American commercial district, and then to the Oak Avenue in Charleston, South Carolina, where there are many Victorian-style buildings, everything here deeply attracts us. Camille and I also bought a gallery together in New Orleans because of this, and stayed here for 4 years. The gallery is located in one of the buildings on the streets of the French district, where the streets are very narrow and households are closely connected. The mottled old walls have a sense of exotic times. The gallery has 2 floors. On the second floor, on the balcony railing carved with patterns, covered with green hanging flowers and plants, it is dazzling and gorgeous all year round. Hey! Carly, why are you so stunned? Camille wore a bright yellow long dress today, clutching several shopping bags filled with things, and struggled to push the door into the gallery. At this moment, I am thinking in front of the easel about what to draw today. The sound of Camille entering interrupted my train of thought. I glanced at her in response and raised my left hand to point my finger in her direction. Suddenly, the shopping bags she was holding floated one by one in her arms, and then they ran to the table one by one in sequence, like long legs. So, cool. Camille excitedly ran towards me like a child, ready to offer me her kiss. I quickly turned around and dodged with a brisk step. Kiss me. I won't eat you. Although she pounced, she looked indifferent and walked up to me with a humming pace. Rather than asking for a kiss from me, it's better to practice your spell well. Camille, you're not a child anymore, you know you're an adult witch. I looked at Camille with a cynical expression, feeling somewhat helpless. I met Camille at a Muggle bookstore in New York. She is 3 years younger than me and graduated from the Ivamoni School of Witchcraft and Wizardry in New York, which is recognized as one of the largest magical education institutions in the world. Strangely, the personality differences between us are almost vastly different, but we are actually good friends like this. Camille has a passionate and unrestrained personality, and of course, she is also very crazy. I used to. But she led me to do many foolish things. She loves the whole Muggle world, Muggle music, movies, comics, bars, racing. She has endless interests in anything related to Muggle. As for her level of magic, it can no longer be described as pitiful. Due to her level of magic, I once doubted which old wizard opened the Ifamoni School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. I, Camille Clarity, swear to Merlin that I will take some time to practice the spell well. Her playful and smiling face tried to pretend to be very serious and swore to Merlin, but her second sentence immediately fell through. But before that. Where are we going to play tonight? I couldn't help but admire myself for being able to calm down under her relentless attack for so many years. Laugh. Look, is that a bird or an airplane? No, that's Superman. She suddenly jumped in front of me and made the superhuman gesture of a comic character. Look at me and save the world. Superman, quickly take this unlucky child away. I waved my hand and all the painting tools returned to their respective positions, automatically packing them up. It seems that nothing can be drawn today. Unlucky child. Where is it? Is it you? She suddenly took my hand and pulled me up from the seat. Do you know what day it is today? We looked at each other, and Camille squeezed my hand with excitement. She has a pair of beautiful navy blue eyes and is slightly taller than me. July 3, 1984. I looked at her with a serious expression and rolled my eyes in my heart. Yeah. Congratulations on the 4th anniversary of our gallery. She hugged me excitedly. This time, I didn't stop her action, and a shallow smile immediately appeared on her face. I still remember when you were in New York, you only had a very sad smile and a serious face. New Orleans is better, let's have some jazz. Wow. Carly, go to the bar at night. Camille said a lot with a leap in her mind. Before I could catch up, she let go of me and put on a position to play an instrument. I had to give her an okay gesture with a helpless expression on my face, and she finally wisely closed her mouth and then grinned. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 7. Is the past still like before? You are listening at novelfull.audio. There are always a few fools in the world who have been waiting for those fruitless outcomes, perhaps I am one of them. The concept of time has become very shallow for me. I can hardly remember how long I have been away from Ingwa. 1 year, 2 years. Still, 6 years wherever I go, the past always comes out unintentionally, stirring up my heart. I know I have to let go, but I can't let go. There is a hopeful voice in my heart, waiting for something impossible to happen. I was sitting at a small round table in the corner of the bar, and Camille had already been approached by someone else. In the glass on the table, half of the brown yellow with a hint of red Scottish whiskey has been consumed, and there is still a whiskey flavor in the mouth, with a burnt aroma and a hint of bitterness. Since coming to the United States, Scottish whiskey has long been my favorite. No one has guessed the reason why I prefer it correctly. After all, some memories of the past are like taboos that have never been mentioned to anyone. Isn't it just Scotland? There are Hogwarts, many people, and Severus. By the small stage of the bar, dim lights shone in front of the resident singer, and a somewhat ancient piano could be vaguely seen placed there. Slowly, the sound of the piano began to ring. The melody is melodious and deep, but also reveals a hint of sadness. It echoes in the quiet bar, and the resident singer sings softly with the sound of the piano say, something, giving up on, you will be the one, if you want me to anywhere I would followed, you say, something, giving up on, you and I am feeling, so small it was over my head I know nothing at all. The sound of the cheen and the song continued, like an annoying curse that effortlessly grabbed your heartstrings. On such days, drinking such wine, listening to such songs, my heart is filled with bitterness. I have always thought that time is the best medicine, which can make the past pain no longer painful. But I don't know, it's not about making people feel no pain, nor is it about making people forget the pain, but it's about getting used to it. Hey, girl. Let's have a drink together. Stephen found me sitting in the corner of the bar with 2 vodka in his hand. No way. I didn't even think about it before rejecting him and taking the whiskey from the glass in one gulp. This is not the first time I have rejected Stephen. He is one of my many suitors in New Orleans and the one I have been entangled with the longest. Don't rush to drive me away, Carly. He sat across from me on his own, with only a small round table between us. Don't call me Carly, how many times do I have to tell you? Don't force me to use a soul-snatching spell on you. Entangled, sir. I made a gesture of about to pull out my wand, trying to drive him away. Hey. Don't get excited, buddy. Stephen pushed a glass of vodka in my direction on the table. I've brought some news, and I think maybe you'll be interested. It's about the wizarding world of in-country. The magic world of in-country. I leaned back in the chair, holding my hands on my chest. Looking at Stephen with a skeptical expression, I really don't know what he's going to do again this time. You know, most of the wizards in New Orleans are homeless people who wander outside the Ministry of Magic. Stephen curled his lips with a self-proclaimed handsome smirk. Political turmoil and the like have never been a concern for anyone. After all, New Orleans is the most free city. Let's get to the point. I impatiently interrupted his rambling. Oh, yes, it's important. Although it happened a few years ago, I don't think you know it yet. He took a sip of vodka and continued with a teasing wink at me. It's said that the so-called invincible black demon has died, and the Ministry of Magic of in-country has also captured that group of Death Eaters. What? I almost stood up as if out of control when I heard that the Death Eaters had been completely caught. Cough, cough. He was obviously scared by my sudden action. Don't get excited, sit down first. I also heard someone mention it, and I thought it was a pretty funny joke at the time. That black devil was killed by a baby. You say. Then Stephen talked incessantly in front of me for a long time, but I couldn't hear a word. It felt as if the blood in my body was almost drained, and my whole body was icy cold. Severus. You must not have any trouble. I didn't have time to say goodbye to anyone, so I left a note for Camille in a very short time in the gallery. Tell her that I have an urgent matter and need to return to in-country immediately. Continuously shifting from the New Orleans Phantom to Charlotte, and then from Charlotte Phantom to New York. I booked the earliest flight to London, in-country in the early morning of the same day at the fastest speed. I waited in agony in the waiting hall, wishing to immediately transform into a phantom and return to in-country. It's just that phantom shifting is prohibited between countries. Using other magical flying tools to travel to other countries requires approval from Makusa, and the approval process is complex. At this moment, the fastest way is to fly back to in-country on a Muggle plane. Now, there is no other choice but to wait long at the airport. After 6 years, when I step on the land of London again, I feel a sense of being like the world. I'm back, after so many years. After more than 8 hours on the plane, I pondered for a long time and also calmed down a lot. I have been away from the magical world of in-country for too long. I have no idea what exactly happened and what kind of situation it is now. Reason tells me not to act rashly. What I hear may not be true. If the mysterious person really died a few years ago, I need an absolutely trustworthy person and a safe place. Respected Miss Carlista, you're back. Almost as the phantom moved to Foley Manor, Clyde immediately appeared in front of me. He knelt at my feet, just like 6 years ago. His voice remained hoarse, with a hint of excitement. I need to leave all the Prophet daily newspapers of these years, Clyde. I raised my hand to signal him to stand up and walked towards the old mansion of the Foley family. I remember. The Prophet Daily, which was renewed for 10 years, was delivered on time, right? Yes, esteemed Miss Carlista, I will deliver these prophetic daily newspapers to your study in a moment. Clyde finished speaking and disappeared behind me with a pop sound. Pushing open the door of the old house, a cold and gloomy atmosphere spread over. Although the room was cleaned spotlessly, one could indeed feel that it had not been inhabited for a long time. I had no intention of leaving before, and in the end, I left. I didn't plan to come back afterwards, but in the end, I did. There is an invisible big hand pushing me behind me in the dark. Every step taken is unwillingness, but it is also involuntary pushing open the door of the study. Everything here is still as I remember it, completely unchanged. The bookshelves on all four walls are covered with neatly arranged books, and a pile of newspapers over a meter high is neatly stacked next to the desk. Clyde still knew me so well that he didn't like to be disturbed when I was reading and thinking. After he finished putting out this pile of newspapers, he silently left the study. Lifting both hands and sliding up and down in mid-air, all the newspapers automatically sorted and flew into the air, then spread vertically and horizontally throughout the entire study. I quickly scanned these newspapers one by one, and after each scan, I let them fly back to the table, and then stacked them one by one in order. Those irrelevant reports just flashed by in front of me, and I need to focus on reporting on some important events. The incompetence of Minister of Magic Harold Mincan and the mysterious man quickly taking power. Millicent Barnard becomes the new Minister of Magic, Salvation Star. The boy who never died in a cataclysm. Harry James Potter, the boy who survived a great disaster, was born on July 31, 1980 and is the only child of James Potter and Lily Potter. The Dark Lord arrived at Godric Valley on the evening of October 31, 1981, attempting to kill Harry Potter, who was 1 year and 3 months old. Harry's parents died to protect his son, but miraculously he survived. The Black Lord's attempt to kill Harry caused the killing curse to bounce back onto him, and then the Black Lord completely disappeared. According to reliable sources from the Ministry of Magic, the Black Lord has died and the Ministry is making every effort to apprehend members of the Death Eaters who are on the run. When I saw this report, my heart couldn't help but thump. Is this true? The mysterious person died, and Lily and James also died. It seems like a thunderbolt is exploding in my ear, leaving me completely bewildered. I have only been away for 6 years. Why? What exactly happened? What have I missed in these 6 years? Lily is such a smart and talented witch. I believe she has complete self-protection ability. How could it be easily found by mysterious people? Has Dumbledore's Order of the Phoenix not taken any action? However, Lily died. Naples, I dare not continue to imagine. There are many terrifying thoughts constantly flashing in my mind. I forcefully drove away the distractions in my mind and continued to scan the remaining prophets daily. Minister of Magic. Resolutely defend everyone's right to indulge in Carnival. The Muggle Street Bomb. The loyal servant of the mysterious man Cyrus Black. The infamous Cyrus Black, as the secret agent of the Potter family, was an shameless traitor. Revealed information about the Potter couple to a mysterious person and brutally killed Dwarf Peter and Muggle bystanders. Today Black was arrested by Auror and immediately sent to Azkaban for life imprisonment. There is also a picture attached to this report. Sirius is being taken away by 2 Aurors, his expression exceptionally fierce and crazy, and he keeps shouting something. Surprisingly, Sirius betrayed James. If it weren't for the accurate report from the Prophets Daily, I wouldn't have believed it. It was Sirius who killed the others. What about Severus? I couldn't help but clench my fist, not thinking more. I need to find information about the Death Eaters and Severus first. I don't know how long I've been searching, but I let my hands keep doing mechanical movements, leaving behind one unrelated Prophets Daily. Finally, a prominent title caught my attention. The Magical Law Committee begins the trial of the Death Eaters. After the Dark Lord was killed by the savior Harry Potter, Bellatrix, Rodolfo's, Sebastian, and Barty Crouch Jr. kidnapped Neville Longbottom's parents, members of the Order of the Phoenix, Aurora couple Alice, and Frank Longbottom. Bellatrix and others used the Diamond Heart curse to torture Alice and Frank, asking them about the whereabouts of the Dark Lord, but did not reveal any information until the two became mentally unstable. This heinous crime has aroused great anger in the Wizarding Society, and the Ministry of Magic has also caught the culprit. 4 people have recently been tried by the Magical Law Committee and sentenced to life imprisonment in Azkaban. Alice and Frank, who were mentally ill, were sent to the St. Mungo Magical Injury Hospital. Dumbledore appeared in court to testify during the trial of Igor Kakarlov in Wysengamo, and he personally confirmed that Severus Snape had become a member of the Order of Phoenix when he joined the Death Eaters. Snape played the role of a spy among the Death Eaters, constantly conveying internal information about the Death Eaters to the Order of the Phoenix. Therefore, Severus Snape was pardoned and released in court. Igor Kakarlov also revealed that Lockwood, the silent man of the Ministry of Magic, used his position to work for the mysterious August Lockwood was found guilty in court and immediately imprisoned in Azkaban. It wasn't until he saw the words "Severus Snape pardoned and not guilty" that a heavy stone fell from his heart. He's okay. He should be, still okay. I can't say what my mood is at this moment. This Prophet's Daily was tightly held in my hand, and its 2 ends were wrinkled together due to the force in my hand. The sound of knocking on the door sounded out of place. "Come in. Respected Miss Carlista. Mr. Albus Dumbledore is visiting and is currently waiting for you in the living room." Clyde's hoarse voice came into my ear. I calmed down and pulled out my unused birch wand, holding it in my hand and stroking it again and again. "What should come, always will come," I murmured to myself, taking a step towards the living room. At the beginning of this chapter, all English sentence spaces are replaced with English commas because they cannot be typed and cannot be uploaded. Please understand. Also, I'm looking for flowers. I'm looking for a collection. Thank you Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 13. Accidents and Hidden Intentions. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This night was exceptionally unbearable, allowing myself to sit on the ground wet. Embracing both arms, experiencing the coldness and trembling of a person alone. Accompanied by the ticking sound of water droplets falling to the ground, occasional slight collisions between utensils can be heard from the office outside the door. Just like this, listening to the passage of time, the air becomes dull, humid, and even solidified. Perhaps it's about to light up. But if a person's heart is filled with darkness, how should they distinguish between morning and evening? Knocking, couldn't distinguish whether it was reality or a dream, and I vaguely heard a knock on the door. My back, leaning against the edge of the bed, was a bit stiff, and a sense of fatigue and soreness rushed towards me before I even woke up. "Professor Foley." Severus' voice came in muffled through the bedroom door. Yes. I'm here." The answer was a bit hoarse in my voice, my cheeks burning, and my head feeling dizzy. This feeling was extremely uncomfortable. I almost rolled half on the ground before finally holding onto the edge of the bed and standing up. "I have to remind you. The professors need to arrive early for the opening party tonight. Now, it's the right time. Shouldn't you consider coming out of the bedroom?" Through the door, I could guess Severus' expression must be very bad now. Merlin's beard. When did he fall asleep? Why did he sleep for so long? Okay. You don't have to wait for me, I'll go later. I didn't intend to wait for you. I was just reminding you, followed by the sound of Severus' footsteps and the sound of closing the door. Generally speaking, the pain that can be solved with just one dose of medicine is simply insignificant in the eyes of wizards. And now, I am enduring a minor illness that is not worth mentioning. A fever. Due to waking up close to the start of the school banquet, there was no extra time to prepare a fever-relieving medicine for oneself. So much so that it was difficult to concentrate throughout the entire branch ceremony, and the whole person was confused. I should be grateful that the seat of the Professor of Magic History is not as close to the center as the position of the Professor of Black Magic Defense or Transformation. I am sitting in the second-to-last position on the right side of the Professor's seat. It is an inconspicuous corner. At this moment, Dumbledore stood up. "Welcome to our new life," Dumbledore said in a loud voice, with his arms open and a kind and bright smile on his mouth. "Welcome. Welcome our elders, welcome you back." The auditorium was filled with appreciative laughter and enthusiastic applause. Dumbledore waited for a moment, then raised his hands to signal everyone to calm down. "I have a few words to say, before everyone gets dizzy by the upcoming delicious meal." Dumbledore still smiled kindly, shaking his purple and gold sleeves. "First of all, welcome to the new professor. Professor Millis Rogier, and thank you for being willing to fill the vacancy in our defense against the dark arts class." Professor Rogier stood up, wearing a very exquisite deep purple robe today, embroidered with exquisite dark gold medals on the cuffs, collar, and buttons. "Good luck, Professor." Dumbledore nodded at Professor Rogier and led the way in applauding. The students in the auditorium also joined in welcoming Professor Rogier's arrival. At the same time, Professor Binns has been teaching courses in the history of magic for many years. This year, he has decided to retire so that he can have more time to enjoy a different ghost life at Hogwarts. Fortunately, someone has taken over his position. Let's welcome the new professor. Professor Carlista Foley. When it was Dumbledore's turn to introduce me, he had to muster up his energy and stand up from his seat to receive waves of applause and cheers from the auditorium. Finally, I hope everyone can have a pleasant academic year. Remember to light up the lights in your heart. There will be plenty of time for speeches, but now, let's eat happily. The cheering voices in the auditorium rang out again, and delicious dishes suddenly fell from the sky. 5 long tables were suddenly filled with large pieces of beef, roasted chicken, plates of French fries, bread, jam, and pots of pumpkin juice. The only difference between the professor's and student seats was that the professor's seat provided wine made by domestic elves. Plate after plate of delicious dishes have no attraction in front of me. A cold sweat flowed down my forehead, and beads of sweat oozed from my palms. I was all focused on how to endure until the banquet ended. Boosting his spirits, he poured out a glass of wine, sipping it one by one, until Dumbledore announced the end of the school banquet. The sound of tables and chairs colliding around him, and the heads of various colleges began to guide the freshmen on their way. The hall became noisy, and as the students moved out of the hall in an orderly manner, the professors also began to withdraw. I quietly hid in the crowd and cast a phantom spell on myself. I don't want anyone to see me now. Because now, I am so dizzy that I can no longer maintain a stable posture. The auditorium is rotating in my sight, and I can only support the walls and walk towards the basement bit by bit. Walking from the auditorium to the office feels like the longest journey ever taken. Strive to tighten every nerve and persevere. When he struggled back to the office, thankfully Severus had not returned yet. As the Dean of Slytherin, he should still be settling in the new students in Slytherin's public lounge at this time. At this moment, my whole body is as hot as a furnace, and I don't even have the strength to light a candle. I didn't burn it so badly before, I was really dizzy. I drank a few more glasses of wine at the opening party. Stumbling forward in the dark, I finally reached the bedroom door. At the moment when the bedroom door was pushed open, all nerves seemed to be unable to hold on and collapse. The last memory before falling down is here, so unfamiliar, we don't have much to talk about. Really. You can deceive everyone, but you can't deceive me. Professor Rogier, if you have evidence. I'll find it. You disgusting mixed-race bastard. A chaotic conversation followed by a heavy door closing sound. What's wrong? Where am I? This is my own bedroom. On the bed. Unconsciously turning to the right, a sudden sense of falling startled me and I immediately opened my eyes. I had a gorgeous intimate encounter with the floor. Damn it, I remember going back to the bedroom and then, have a good dream, Professor Foley. The sound of falling off the sofa clearly startled Severus. He said dryly and walked quickly from the direction of the door to my side, looking at me from a high position. Yeah, it's such a great dream that I can hardly distinguish between reality and dreams. I awkwardly smiled at him and rubbed my sore arm as I sat up from the ground, feeling strange that the previously uncomfortable feeling of fever had disappeared. So next time, don't sleepwalk to my bedroom again, he gritted his teeth a bit. What? I got up from the ground in great confusion, looking extremely embarrassed now. My patience is limited, please don't try to challenge my limits again. Severus said fiercely, immediately turning around and pushing open his bedroom door. As the bedroom door closed, another kind of lock curse sounded. I found that since returning to Hogwarts, I have suddenly gained an ability. An ability that can easily anger Severus in minutes. Is it because I stayed in the United States for too long? On the contrary, after returning to in-country, everything in life seemed so uncomfortable after that day, there was suddenly only silence between me and Severus. We have become quite tacit, not saying a word of tacit understanding. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 9. The ever-changing world and the unchanging heart. You are listening at novel full.audio. For now, I used to believe, I used to not believe, and I am still searching for faith at this moment. But every time you face Dumbledore, you will find that believing or not believing is nothing anymore. Together with Dumbledore, they moved from the Phantom of Fleury Manor to the terminus of the Hogwarts Express, located in the village of Hogsmeade. Since one of the founders of Hogwarts, Salazar Slytherin, left school, the other three founders of Hogwarts have begun to lay down tight magical defenses that cannot be directly reached by phantom shift. Hogsmeade is the only village in country that is full of wizards without muggles. This is a very unique small village filled with thatched-roofed cottages and shops. Hogwarts is located next to the Great Lake, which originates from Hogsmeade Village, and students start their new academic year here. Walking along the lakeside, there is a small path that leads directly to Hogwarts Castle. Silently following behind Dumbledore, like a walk between old friends, each enjoying this comfortable time quietly. We strolled along this small path, and the surrounding scenery remained the same as before, with every blade of grass and every tree being a familiar place in our memory. Memory, it has an invisible valve. Once opened, like the surging sea water, it keeps surging uncontrollably. Severus, is that all your luggage? Let's go together. No, you go first. I'll wait for Lily here. Hi. Silver, Carlista. I'm here. The girl with red hair, blue eyes, and a bright smile, and the big boy with black hair and black eyes with a faint smile. The scenes here seem to have happened yesterday. Memories are both realistic and cruel. It seizes every small opportunity to sneak out and evoke the past that I cannot bear, repeatedly piercing my heart. People like Severus. Never, never me. The password for the principal's office is still as vulgar as ever. Toffee finger cookies. Those peculiar desserts will always become the new password activated by Dumbledore. As the gatekeeper's statue ghost opened, he followed Dumbledore towards the spiral staircase leading to the principal's office. The rotating staircase spirals up from the 3rd floor to the 8th floor. It led us steadily up and up, all the way to a door with a brass knocker that led to Dumbledore's office. No matter how many times you've been here, this infinite sense of dizziness is always difficult to adapt to. Where's Fox, sir? Walking into Dumbledore's office, portraits of past principals hung on the wall, and the principals in the portraits were dozing off. When I was still studying at Hogwarts before, every time Principal Dumbledore called me to the principal's office, Fawkes would always hover and hum friendly above my head. And now, the habitat that Fawkes should be staying on is empty, with nothing. Oh, I sent it out to deliver some messages. Do you need a sour soda? Dumbledore was standing by the side cabinet, rummaging through a pile of bottles filled with liquid. Perhaps his sour soda was hidden too deep, and after a long time, he couldn't find it. Mr. Dumbledore, I hope what you are looking for is a meditation basin. I really don't know how long I have to stand here. Dumbledore seems to have completely forgotten the purpose of bringing me here. Indeed, indeed. It should have been, but I almost forgot. It's a pity that I couldn't have a sour soda. Dumbledore turned around with a regretful expression and waved his wand, causing a click sound deep in the office. Then a shallow stone basin slowly drifted towards us, and strange marks could be vaguely seen etched on the edge of the basin. Under our gaze, the shallow stone bowl floated between me and Dumbledore. Let's go together. No, this kind of memory. I don't want to experience it again. I pulled out my birch wand and pressed it against my temple. Close your eyes and carefully search for that memory. Then he cut off irrelevant memories and picked them out separately. It was a fine silver thread entangled at the tip of the wand. Fine beads of sweat are now covering the forehead, and it took a lot of effort to extract this memory. I let it into the meditation basin, and after falling into it, it spun at a constant speed and emitted a faint light. It looked neither liquid nor gas. Wishing you a pleasant experience, sir. Thank you, I will. Dumbledore smiled and blinked at me, bending down towards the meditation basin, immersing his face in the silver substance. And then he disappeared. I'm not sure how long I've been by the meditation basin, but I'm the only one in the principal's office. I didn't feel like I was caressing the birch wand in my hand, the temperature in my hand was icy cold. What's going on here? Since the duel with Dumbledore, it has not been as easy as before. For example, just now, stripping away memories seems to have become a difficult task. Accompanied by the faint snoring of portraits in the office, time passed a long, long time. Suddenly, a familiar bird song came into the principal's office. It was Fawkes flying in from outside the window, and it circled joyfully above my head twice. I reached out my hand to it, and it immediately spiraled down, landing lightly on my arm. After so many years, I was still worried that Fawkes might not recognize me. But as before, it affectionately pecked at my cheek. Then, like a child who had done something bad, he quickly flew back to his perch. Principal, calling me so urgently during the holiday, what's there? With the sound of the principal's office door being opened, a deep, cello-like voice came from behind. It's Severus. The blood in his body condensed together in that moment, and he was stunned, his whole body became stiff. He appeared here without warning, behind me. That cello-like voice still echoes in my ears, what should I do? I could hear the sound of my heart pounding, hitting my eardrums every time. Once, I was the person who fled into despair. That day, that hug, and that caring word. Severus, do you remember? In the past few years, all memories about him have been vivid and never forgotten. My heart couldn't help but tremble, but I couldn't show it. I adjusted my breathing slightly, tried to maintain the curve of my smile at the corner of my mouth, and then turned around. Severus, long time no see. As I turned around, my gray-green eyes met those obsidian-like eyes. Clearly visible. Severus still had a hint of joy on his face, but the next moment he was immediately extinguished. Is that you? Severus raised his eyebrows slightly, his expression appearing very plain. Watching his expression like this made me doubt that the joy I had just seen was just a momentary illusion. His appearance doesn't seem to have changed much. His thin and pale face, dark eyes, a tall nose and thin lips. Time has not changed our appearance, but there are still many things that have changed. Yes, I'm back. I spoke, but my eyes still stared at him without blinking. Severus was wearing a black slim-fitting robe today, with a long string of buttons tightly tied to the collar, and only the corners of the white shirt inside could be seen slightly. I thought you would run away in fear for a lifetime, Carlista. Did your courage come back because the mysterious person had disappeared? He paced towards me as he spoke, with a mocking smile on his lips. Did Severus always feel this way? Am I the same person in his heart? My face still held the same smile as before, but at this moment, it seemed both thin and ridiculous. Oh, Severus. Sorry to disturb your time for reminiscing, both of you. Dumbledore, who suddenly came out of the meditation basin, interrupted our conversation. I should really thank Dumbledore for interrupting us at this moment. I thought that when I returned to in-country this time, I could face everything. But when facing Severus again, I still have that fragile me in my bones. Principal, you came to me just to reminisce about the past. I could hear a hint of impatience in Severus' words, deliberately dragging out a long tune word by word. From the corner of my eye, I could see that he was still looking in my direction. No, not entirely, Severus. I have some arrangements that require your cooperation. Dumbledore looked relaxed and lowered his head slightly to look at Severus, then looked at me again. His half-moon-shaped glasses have slipped onto the tip of his nose. At this moment, the feeling of being watched suddenly disappeared. Obviously, Severus had withdrawn his gaze and turned to look at Dumbledore. He didn't speak, as if waiting for Dumbledore's next words. Dumbledore's gaze eventually settled on Severus, pushing his crescent-shaped glasses and saying, "Just before you came, Carlista had already agreed to teach at Hogwarts." What? Dumbledore's words clearly frightened me. Teaching. Dumbledore never mentioned a word before. Are you trying to tell me that you changed your mind so quickly? Previously, but you promised it yourself, Carlista. So. Whatever you want. Suddenly, I fell silent. Indeed, the price had already been promised before the duel with Dumbledore. Do you teach at Hogwarts? Before, I never thought about, maybe I forgot to tell you. Severus is currently a potion professor at Hogwarts and the Dean of Slytherin. You will be colleagues from now on. Dumbledore's eyes flickered behind his half-moon-shaped eyes. So Principal, should I clap my hands and hold a welcome party for the incoming Professor Foley at this moment? If that's all you want to say, I. Severus pretended to raise his hands and made a clapping gesture. Severus, don't worry, Dumbledore gestured to interrupt him. Carlista will serve as the Professor of Magic History at Hogwarts, as Professor Binns did not have an office before. I want Carlista to share an office with you, and you. What? This time, Severus and I almost interrupted Dumbledore in unison. Severus glanced at me and immediately turned to Dumbledore. Principal, I think Professor McGonagall's office is more spacious than mine. I believe you all would be very happy, right? When you were studying at Hogwarts before, you were friends, which can deepen your friendship. Professor McGonagall's place is obviously not the best choice. Besides, Severus. You don't want to make a difficult decision for an elderly and poor old principal, do you? Dumbledore helplessly spread his hand to Severus. Severus frowned with displeasure, pursed his lips and was about to speak when Dumbledore spoke. Also, I remember there's a large storage room next to your office. Could you please help tidy it up, Severus? I plan to transform it into a bedroom for a professor of magic history. Principal, that storage room. Alright, everyone. I believe you have a lot of other things to do, so don't waste your time here today. Maybe you two can take some time to continue reminiscing. Dumbledore smiled and said to us, it was a very obvious guest order. He has already prepared everything, leaving us no room for maneuver. No need, Principal. Have a good day. Severus spoke several times but was interrupted by Dumbledore, and the final result remained unchanged. He said goodbye angrily and without hesitation, turned around and left the principal's office. I was still standing there in a daze, feeling a bit dazed. All of this happened too quickly and suddenly. Carlista, go back. You will become Professor Foley from now on, and we still have many things to do. You have an endless future waiting for you, don't run away anymore. People won't always live in a dark and terrible past, we will eventually wait for the light. Isn't that right? Dumbledore looked at me kindly. Can he understand me after reading my memory? What will be waiting for me in the future? Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 14. Troubles and Ventilated Hearts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. On the evening of the first Friday after the start of school, I gave up the lavish dinner at Hogwarts and left early. Saturday and Sunday are rest days in Japan. Staying at school for the weekend is something I can't even imagine lately. The days without classes mean there will be more time to spend alone with Severus. I have been troubled by how to resolve the silence between us. But in the end, it's just my own trouble. If Severus is unwilling to speak, even if I say too much, what's the point? From Hogsmeade Village, the Phantom directly transformed back to Foley Manor. Back to a place of freedom. Even though I am the only one here, at least there will be no more embarrassing low pressure in the air. Clyde. Can't you tell me how to get to Hogwarts? I'm very sorry, Miss Clyde, you can't go to Hogwarts. You're really driving me crazy. Call me Camille, okay? Don't be a miss all day, I feel dizzy listening. Sorry, Miss Clyde. Don't say, miss. Don't say, sorry. I'm sorry, Miss Clyde. In the hallway leading to the living room, the voices of Camille and Creed could be heard from a distance, as well as Camille's somewhat frantic wailing. Hello, Camille. Let me see, at this point in time. How could you honestly stay at home? I walked into the living room from the hallway. According to our previous routine in New Orleans, 8 p.m. is the beginning of our nightlife. Carly. Camille shouted excitedly, followed by a hurricane. I was hit by a human flesh shell and fell to the ground again due to inertia. Undoubtedly, this human flesh shell is none other than Camille. I really want to be grateful for the thick long-haired carpet on the ground, otherwise it will come into close contact with the sturdy wooden floor. I cannot guarantee that my poor back will not be injured as a result. Besides, I also need to bear the weight of Camille pressing on me. Oh, Merlin. Are you planning to murder me? You're pressing me so hard that my legs are cramping. I pretended to complain. How did you come back, Carly? I miss you so much. Camille was excitedly pressing down on my left half, affectionately reaching out to embrace my neck. Your longing for me is like treating me like a human cushion. I gestured to Camille not to continue oppressing me, but she still put on a reluctant expression. Oh no. Absolutely not, I mean. You're so thin, it's not comfortable to be a human cushion. Camille sneered at me. Since you're feeling so uncomfortable, why don't you get up from me now? I didn't know what kind of expression to respond to as I watched Camille frown and wink. No, I'm really happy to lie down so uncomfortable now. Camille put on a big character like she pretended to be dead and pressed it against my entire body. Okay. It seems you want to take a spacewalk in the air and have a 360-degree free spin. As soon as I finished speaking, I cast a floating spell on Camille, directing her to fly off me. She maintained her large font with a surprised expression and then flipped 360 degrees in the air. This is so cool. Camille faded away her surprised expression in the air and instead excitedly imitated Michael Jackson's spacewalk. Look at me. Are you very talented in dancing? Yes, I am extremely talented. I got up from the ground, reluctantly spread out my hands, and then safely lowered Camille from the air. Let me try again. Camille's emerald blue eyes sparkled as she looked at me with an eager expression. No way. I pretended to be angry with a stern face, while Camille had a pleasing expression on her face. Forgive me for never having a way with Camille. My stiff face didn't hold on for even 5 seconds until it couldn't hold on anymore. The corners of his mouth couldn't help but rise, revealing a shallow smile. Yeah. Finally laughing. It's not easy to make you happy. Do you know the expression on your face when you enter the door? Can it scare people to death? Camille pointed to her face and made a terrifying expression that was both hilarious and hilarious. Camille. Are you sure this expression is what I looked like when I walked in? It doesn't look scary at all, I just feel extremely ugly. She reached out and poked her face like a prank. She blinked at me, then grabbed my hand and pulled me to the side sofa. Let me guess. My dear Carly went to a boarding school to teach, and then suddenly came back because. Camille pulled me onto the sofa. I looked up at the direction of the ceiling, my eyes unconsciously dodging, afraid of being noticed by Camille. What are you hiding from? Running to the United States to escape like before. She stared at me seriously, feeling a bit uncomfortable being seen through. I bit my lips without saying a word, thinking about how to refute it. I struggled with my mouth opening and closing, but couldn't say anything. Is my mind so easily guessed? Yes, I am avoiding it. Even Camille could see something, while Severus remained indifferent. I don't know why I'm continuing to persist. But I know, I've been putting myself in a difficult position. My fault. Just pretend I didn't say anything, okay? Camille looked at my emotions and raised her hands in a gesture of surrender. Why don't we have a drink? It's been a long time since we had a drink together, Carly. And you didn't even tell me. There's actually a wine cellar in your estate. When Camille mentioned the wine, she couldn't help but get excited. She flickered her 2 precious blue eyes, looking at me with extreme longing. I thought you would be surprised by my family's collection of books. You know, there are all kinds of ancient pure-blooded families, let alone the Foley family, which is one of the sacred 20.8 tribes in the pure-blooded list. Unexpectedly. Your little plan turned out to be my wine cellar. I have known about the wine cellar at Foley Manor since I was young. But when I was a child, I had no interest in alcohol and never went there to play. So, can I drink whatever I want? Can I object to it? No way. Okay. Yeah. I love you so much, Carly. Camille excitedly rushed towards me, the scene was so familiar. I reflexively pulled out the cushion on the sofa and placed it on my face, shouting loudly at Creed. Miss Carlista, what do you have to say? Clyde appeared very promptly in front of the sofa. His appearance abruptly interrupted Camille's attempt to pounce on me. Wine cellar, bring some wine. I breathed a sigh of relief and put down the cushion, coinciding with Camille's pitiful gaze. You need brandy, whiskey, vodka, Merlot, Mulatta. You can all watch and take them. I quoted a string of wines that Camille liked to drink to Creed, and Camille, who was originally looking pitiful, turned to a happy smile after hearing the names I had quoted. Watching her exaggerated expression change in a very short amount of time, it really makes people feel both angry and funny. She is like my little sister, likes to make trouble with me without reason, like to cling to me, like to make me happy, like to take me with her to do things she enjoys doing. Brandy. Extra old. I bet. It's at least 70 years old. Camille knelt on the carpet in front of the sofa, half of her body lying on the coffee table, opening the 3rd bottle of wine, perhaps the 4th. I'm a bit confused. She filled my glass with a hiccup while drinking, and also poured herself a full glass. Shaking and swaying, she lifted her cup and touched mine, spilling a lot of amber brandy from the collision. Although I felt a bit dizzy, I still habitually took out this brandy in one gulp. Yeah. The taste is not very good, didn't you miss? The best time. Brandy couldn't feel the mellow taste at all, and the feeling on the palate was only a strong and spicy alcohol flavor. As expected, the quality of brandy will begin to decline after more than 50 years. On this night, I can't remember how many times I raised my glass and how many glasses of wine I drank. It seems like I want to indulge in this indulgent alcohol through this, it doesn't matter how much alcohol you drink, this damn, unnamed rest day. This estate belongs to me, no one can stop me from doing anything. Super, super, super strong. However, that bottle tastes even better after 40 years. Camille patted the carpet on the ground for a moment, her face flushed with a hint of drunkenness. I like 30.3 years old. Scotch whiskey. Gin. It feels even stronger. I leaned on the coffee table and reached for the nearest bottle of whiskey, with the last sip of brownish red liquid remaining in the bottle. Another bottle. Tequila. I was still feeling a bit unsatisfied, as the aftertaste of the wine surged in waves, a dizzy sensation stirring my entire body with a tingling sensation. No. Carly, that's enough. I'm already very dizzy. Camille shook her hand at me, trying to stand up. Her arms supporting the coffee table swayed slightly, and her calves didn't seem to have much strength. In the end, she seemed to give up and instead lay down by my side. I saw her lying down in a disheveled state, which was a bit funny. I couldn't help but giggle. Hey. I'm fainting. Carly, you're actually mocking me. I don't have it. I'm also feeling dizzy. I smiled and patted Camille's shoulder, feeling a surge of alcohol and getting even more dizzy. Aha, I see you. Constantly shaking in front of me. Carly, can you stop shaking? Camille lay on the carpet, reaching out and tugging at me. Sorry. Maybe I should lie down. I don't know what I'm shaking, maybe not. Is this room shaking? Anyway, in the end, he lay down in a daze. So. After drinking so much. Do you feel better in your heart? Camille lay beside me, lightly rubbing her shoulder against me. Maybe not. I know Camille knows me, she can feel something hidden in my heart. What is? 4. Can you tell me? Camille said softly. After a long silence, I stared blankly at the ceiling and never spoke. After a long wait, Camille was the first to speak up. If you can't face it, come with me back to the United States. Camille, I can't go back. I said softly, as if I was just talking to myself. Why? Camille turned her head to look at me. Because, a promise. And another person. I let out a deep sigh and closed my eyes exhausted. There's no room for maneuvering. No. The dizziness continued, and even though I had closed my eyes, it still refused to let me go. Who is that person? Someone who doesn't love me. My voice trembled uncontrollably, and my chest felt a dull pain that continued to intensify every minute. Speaking out the cruelest reality from my own mouth, it turns out to be this feeling, why do you still want to stay? I've left before. I can't forget. I can't do it. Tears slid down from the corner of my eyes without warning, coming off guard and not even giving me a chance to frown. During the 6 years of avoiding him, my heart was empty. I lost the sound of my own heartbeat. Subconsciously, I lifted my left hand and covered my eyes with the back of my hand, trying to prevent tears from slipping down again. Until I came back and saw him again, my heart began to beat again. I couldn't imagine leaving again, I was afraid that one day he would forget me. I humbly hope he can see me, care about me. Camille listened quietly on the side, her every breath appearing cautious, as if afraid of disturbing me. I envy her. Lily. He always looks at her. Just like I always look at him. Alcohol was rampant in my body, tears finally uncontrollable. I can no longer control my inner turmoil. It's like a dam that has been sealed for a long time, and now it suddenly encounters a vent that is rushing out frantically. These despicable and unspeakable secrets have been hidden in my heart for too long. Even though Lily married someone else, he still loved her. I cared for him. He turned a blind eye. Now Lily is dead. Can you see me? But why? Why does she want to die? She's alive, I can't argue. If she's dead, what should I argue with her? Just as he finished speaking, all the glass products in the living room suddenly burst open. Carly. Relax, don't think. Don't think anymore. It's okay now, look at me. Hey, I'm still here. Camille grabbed my hand that covered my eyes. This is not me. My heart has been shattered. Now, every beat is torture. My voice was accompanied by hysterical sobs, and Camille grabbed my hand that covered my eyes and forcibly moved it away. Previously, I used to exert more force and effort to suppress my tears. Even when I opened my eyes again, there was only a blur before my eyes. This is an illusion, Carly. You're not awake, you're drunk. Everything feels wrong now. You need to rest, just rest. Listen to me, don't think about anything. Camille gently caressed my cheek with one hand, leaned down, and landed a careful kiss on my forehead. The other hand quietly took out the wand from my waist. Shoo. Camille lightly tapped her index finger on my lips. It was very soft with a hint of warmth. It's late at night, Carly. Let's close our eyes. I promise, there's no pain in the dream. After dawn, everything will be okay. Hypnotism. Seeking flowers, seeking collections, Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th.